Hi guys, my name is Vanessa Smedley and I'm a painter. Today we are going to paint this lovely scene of a beautiful Oklahoma sunrise. So, let's do this! And here's the materials list for today. Feel free to pause and screenshot for your own enjoyment. I'm going to start my mixing process by mixing a very thick consistency of cerulean blue and cobalt blue. The blue at the top of that sky is very intense and I want to make sure and get it right. Then I mix Cadmium Free Red with a little bit of Quinacridone Magenta in order to make sort of a coral color. I prepare a little pool of Quinacridone Magenta by itself and some lemon yellow by itself. Then I mix Quinacridone Magenta, Cobalt Blue, and add a little bit of lemon yellow to gray that purple down just a little bit. Then I mix Cobalt Blue with Cadmium Yellow to make a nice grayed down kind of grungy green. Then I mix a darker green by mixing Indigo Blue, Cadmium Yellow, and a little bit of burnt sienna to gray that down also. As always, when doing a very intense sky like this, I wet the background with clean water so that I can do it wet on wet. Doing it wet on wet like this gives you more drying time and allows you time to get in all of those colors while allowing them to meld nicely together. Now I start laying in the color and I'm starting with that very bright lemon yellow because that's going to be the focal point of this sky. After that I blend in some of that coral color, making it lighter on the left side and blending in a little bit into the yellow as well. And then I start adding in some of the Quinacridone Magenta at the bottom here at the horizon line and towards the top where it starts melding in with the blue. That's going to be a transition color from the blue. Then I start dropping in the blue and I'm going to go as dark as I can towards the top and then kind of blending it in these upward strokes with the rest of the colors. And I put in one little blue streak down towards the horizon line, but I make sure that I'm not overcrossing that yellow because you do not want a green streak in your sky. Also adding in a little bit of that purple in an upward motion as a transitional color between the blue and the pink. Adding a little bit more of the yellow towards the left side of the composition and then a little bit more of the coral color as well. Adding in another little streak of purple here that I forgot to add earlier. And now I'm going to lift out with a damp brush a little bit of that coral color because it has kind of overrun my yellow and I want the yellow to be the star of the show here. You may notice from the original photo that the fence and the road are missing, and that really is just because they were leading the eye off of the page and away from the focal point, which is the yellow in the sunrise here. Now that I've gotten the sky mostly where I want it and the water has had a chance to soak into the paper and dry out just a little bit, I'm coming back in with this purple and a number 12 round brush and I'm dropping in these wispy clouds. If you do this part while your paper is still way too wet, everything will just spread together into one big mass and it will create a big mess in your sky. So you want to wait until the water has had a chance to soak in and it's not just pooling on the top. In this case, I really didn't have to wait much because it took me a little while to get all of those colors placed in there. But if you have a simpler sky, you definitely want to wait until you see that the water is kind of soaked into your paper. But you don't want to wait too late because then it won't spread at all and it won't look like clouds. So it's kind of a tricky balance. Now I'm just lifting out a few areas with a little bit of shop towel to have some lighter clouds come into this picture. Now I'm just adding some cloud shadows to the bottom of these guys. I want to make sure and get this blue as intense as I possibly can, so I'm coming back in and I'm wetting the entire area again, and then I'm going to come back in with a stronger blue. This is also going to help to cover up a little bit of that granulation, because cerulean blue is quite a granulating color. So I'm doing that, and then I'm coming back in with a little bit of that purple to blend that together with the pink just a little bit better. I also felt like the coral dried just a little bit too light, so I'm strengthening that color just a little bit. Obviously, Oklahoma has some really beautiful sunrises. Not that I've witnessed them personally, because it's just a little too early for me to get up, if I'm being frank. I was given this photo again. No one can expect artists to be up that early, in my opinion. Here I take a shop towel and run it along the tape around the edges, because you don't want that water to run back in and cause a back run. I took a break and allowed this to dry completely. Now I'm taking my super old stiff acrylic brush and I'm using clean water, and I am lifting out some of these wispy areas of lightness in the sky. You kind of got to be careful if you're going to use a really stiff brush like this, because I noticed, even though this is arches, that I was causing it to pill just a tiny little bit by scrubbing too hard. That is really down to the brush. This is a very, very stiff, old, crusty brush, so maybe you don't want to use those, I don't know. I'm using my purple mix here, and I'm going to add that mountain in. I decided to add just a little bit of blue to that to help it to recede into the background, because it was a little bit warm. So I added a little bit of Cobalt Blue, and then I also added just a little bit of Cadmium Yellow to gray it down a little bit. And we got to take another break and allow that to dry completely after we get it finished. Here I'm using my darkest green mix, that's the one with Indigo Blue in it, and I'm dry brushing in this tree line in the background. And here I add in some Indigo Blue down at the bottom of it to add some shadow to the tree area. I think that a lot of people are under the impression that Oklahoma is a very flat state, kind of like areas of Kansas and some of the Great Plains, but it actually has quite a few mountains in it, as evidenced by this one. Time to let it dry yet again. I find that there's an awful lot of drying time in watercolor. I mixed up a third green with just a little bit more yellow, and I'm using that as kind of like highlight areas to this grass. Then I come in with my other green and I'm adding that all over the area. Now I'm adding some of that coral color into the grass, because this sky is really just casting kind of an orange glow onto this field. Then I take the edge of my credit card and I'm scraping some grass shapes into this area. Added in some of that darker green, and now I'm sprinkling salt across here to add in some wildflower texture. I made a video showing you exactly how to do this. If you'd like to see that, the link is above. And then I add in just a little bit of burnt umber for some variation. And now I'm splattering in some texture into the foreground. I got a little bit on my sky, so then I had to cover up my sky to add some more. I worked way too hard on that sky to mess it up like that. Luckily, I was able to lift some of those little dots out. Sometimes I just get caught up in the moment and forget to protect the sky, but it's best not to do that. Now I'm using the lightest of my green mixtures to come back in and do these 3 trees that are still kind of far off, but they're closer than the tree line in the back. So I add that lightest of the colors by using dry brushing, and then I'm coming back in with the other darker colors to add shadow in the front. Then I add a little bit of really dark Payne's gray just to be able to bring that forward from the tree line in the back. And here I'm using the really dark Payne's gray to add the tree trunks and a few little dots here and there in the background. Those are meant to be very far off cows because I can see those in the picture. And then I swipe a line underneath the tree trunks as well to add a little bit of shadow and anchor them to the landscape. I lifted out just a tiny bit of highlight on that mountain by using clean water and dabbing it out. I apologize, I forgot to hit record and missed a little bit of footage, but basically I just came in and added a little bit of yellow pastel for some little yellow wildflowers into this field. These little guys are all over Oklahoma. I'm also adding a little bit of green pastel to bring a little bit of detail to these middle ground trees. And then I'm adding also a little bit of orange and a little bit of yellow as a reflection from the sky into the top of those trees. Now I've got my number 6 round brush and the darker of the greens, and I'm just adding a few blades of grass for little details here and there. And here's the finished painting, all dried, signed, and the tape removed. And there you have it, a nice, lovely, dramatic rainbow sky. I mean, dramatic not in the drama sense of the word, as in like, she's so drama, but dramatic in the beautiful sense of the word. Okay, anyways, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that stuff, because that is literally how this channel gets to grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.